Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. We are back. This week we're doing a well-known story. At least I think it's well-known.
I had heard of it before I read it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I had seen it on screen, sort of, before I had read it. So,
Sorry.
But we are doing the classic Daredevil story, Born Again.
Yes.
And we'll tell you all about it
in just a few minutes. Let's go.
Hello.
So what you been up to?
Let's see.
Catching up after a while.
Okay, yeah, it's been a few weeks since we've seen each other. I finally went to a comic book shop, which is something I haven't done in a really long time.
You used to go to Crush when
when I lived out in Hayward with you guys. Crush would be the place where I would go, but even then I hadn't gone in like a really long time because everything went digital for the most part. But I found, it's called Fantasy Books and Games in Livermore, and they had hell of stuff. I don't know if he was redecorating or what, but it was kind of a mess in there.
Okay.
But it's a big store. You know how big Crush is. It had to be at least 2-3 times bigger than that.
Damn.
Yeah. And he has a whole bunch of old comics, new stuff, action figures, pops, those big statues, like character statues. Those, trading cards, Pokemon, all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a pop. I got the Namor pop, the 80th or 80 years.
Oh, okay.
It was only $11 because I remember seeing that when we went to Seattle last year, and we went to the Funko store. I remember seeing it there, and it was like $25.
Really?
Yeah, or at least 20.
Huh.
Yeah. And I was like, nah, I'll just hold off. And it was only 11 there. So I got that. I got, they're doing a What If Miles Morales comic right now. So the first issue was What If Miles Morales became Captain America?
Yeah.
And then I only saw the second one there. And it was What If Miles Morales became Wolverine? It was pretty cool. It's a interesting story. I'll just tell you guys what happened. But so in the comic, his uncle becomes like Sabretooth. His uncle Aaron becomes Sabretooth. His dad ends up becoming like an officer for S.H.I.E.L.D. And he becomes Wolverine. And it's a short story. It's like a one-off kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you don't
gotta
get
cram
much.
Everything in.
Yeah. So not tons of stuff happened, but it was cool. And then they had I guess they did a reprint of the Fantastic Four issue, Reed and Sue's wedding. What was that, our fourth issue or our fourth episode that we
Something
ever did?
like that.
Yeah. So they had a reprint of that, and they redrew the comic, the whole thing.
Oh, they really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I got that and put it up on my wall. Yeah, that was it.
I keep wanting to kind of staying like on the topic of comic books. I want to send in some of my books to get graded, just because I kind of want to display them on the wall and everything, and just kind of, it'd be nice to have just like some random issues just graded, even if they're not like graded like very good. Yeah. But just kind of having like that official kind of look to them.
Yeah, I wanted to try it, but I always hear horror stories about people like getting their cards like destroyed or their comic books like they go missing, or like I've heard some stories where like they send it out in like January and don't get anything back until like October.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah. That's the only thing. Like I know it's not 100% safe.
Yeah.
Which kind of holds me back. And then like the whole procedure on like okay, now I gotta put my stuff in an envelope or whatever I send it in, and then mail it off. And like you said, I get it back 6-7 months later.
Yeah.
And
especially for something that could, like, if you had for what you're trying to do, like, just get some graded just to get it graded so you could display it.
yeah,
Like, for that, like, not bad. But, like, if you send out stuff that's, like, valuable,
Yeah.
and you know it's valuable, it's like, I don't know. Can I hand deliver this?
like which one I have? I think it was like the 2012 run. I forgot what year that was of Moon Knight. The Warren Ellis run, and I got issue number 1. It's the Scotty Young variant one, so it's him on like stuck on like the moon. I want to get that graded, and then I have 2. I think Into the Spider-Verse. There were 2 connecting covers, and they had just like a bunch of different like variant Spider-Man on there.
Yeah,
and I want to get those graded. Either that, or just put them in frames, and just put them up that way, which will still be cool.
I think I might get frames for mine, because right now I just have them in like the cardboard backing and the plastic, the ones that I have displayed up, and I just have them hold up with like thumbtacks like under the cardboard, which looks kind of janky, but I haven't found any like frames for them.
Yeah,
but I think I might start. I've just got shelves and stuff for my pops to put over like my desk to make the display a little bit better. But it's scary because I take all of my pops out of the box for the most part. But I have like these little shelves that are on the wall now, and most of them stand perfect because their feet are a little bit wider. But some of them, like, I have a Moon Knight one that I think I bought from you a while ago. I don't know if there was a foot display thing that came with it at once. Yeah.
Which one?
He's in his Mr. Knight suit.
Huh.
It's older.
I gotta go through my collection. I could swear I still had that one too. But yeah, you should buy like.
Actually, maybe I bought that one.
There's like some putty stuff you can.
That's the thing. Fariel showed me this thing that she saw on TikTok the other day. It was like, it's called like museum glue. And you put it like under museums use it for glassware, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you should be able to put it, this lady put it under her pops to keep them from like falling over and shit. So I bought some, and I tried it a few times yesterday, and because the Mr. Knight always falls over. So I try to keep him closer to my desk, and I don't know if I just didn't put enough or what, but he still tipped over this morning, so or he was leaning back, like one of his feet was still connected. So I think I have to use a little bit more, but I mean it was only like $8 for like a thing like this big, and you still don't use, or I guess nobody else could see that. The container is like a little like 4-ounce, 3-ounce container with it. And you don't use that much in the beginning, so it should last for the most part. But the pops that I have in my like glass case always tip over.
Oh, I kind of want to, if I ever get more space, I want to get like a glass box, because I have like a mixed variety of collectibles, so like it'd be nice to kind of have like some of the more oddly shaped ones or things that I just keep in a box, like. Be able to display those out somewhere. I saw some guy, because I have the Lego Star Wars helmet collections. I saw some guy on TikTok. They weren't even for this, but he found like these things.
Those little like flower.
Yeah.
Like it looks like the one from little Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Yeah. You got those, and you put the helmets in there.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty cool idea. I didn't ever. Plus, they get hella dusty if they're just sitting there, and it's hard to clean the dust off.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to have that, just so they're not as dusty. I can still display them. They still look nice. But yeah. And then I was also going to mention to you that I got tickets for the Comedy Bang Bang tour.
Yeah.
Which is, like, I was super excited.
He kept talking about it, and then when he finally announced that tickets were going on sale on the podcast, I was like, oh, yeah, I got to, like, see if I can try to get tickets for that. And then I had to hop out of my truck to start working. And then I completely forgot about it. And then that was at the end of the podcast, so I didn't go back to it.
Yeah.
And then you texted me. He was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I was like super excited because yeah, he said that they were going to go on sale, and then I thought to myself when he announced it, I was like, damn, I want to see it. Like, it's one of my favorite podcasts. Like, you know, if anything, he inspired me to jump into podcasting and everything. So I was like, it would be great just to go see. And I kind of forgot about it too. And then I think on his Instagram, he like posted that they're going to go on sale soon. So I was like, cool, I'll keep that in mind. And then Gorilla's tickets were also went on sale on Friday. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, I wanted to do those too. And Friday came along for the Gorilla's tickets. And they were like $150 a ticket. I was like, that's going to come out to maybe like close to like $360.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't really want to spend that. So then I was like, oh yeah, the Comedy Bang Bang one. So I went to that one. Those are like $85 a ticket. But after taxes and all that, it came out to like $216 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's a little bit more than I was hoping for, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super juiced for that. That's in August.
Yeah, when you texted me the screenshot, I was like, oh, okay, cool. He got tickets. So I was like, oh, him and Danny are going.
Yeah.
And then I was like, shit, I got to go buy tickets because I wanted to go to that. And then I was just getting ready to look, and you texted me back, and you're like, oh, do you want to go? I was like, yeah, of course. I'm not Comedy Bang Bang. Like I listen to it literally every week.
Yeah.
Monday, as soon as I hop into my truck, that's the first thing that I put on.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, because I was gonna. Kendrick Lamar tickets went on sale last week, and I wanted to go to that because I went to his last one, but I hadn't texted anybody to see if they wanted to go with me or not. So I was like, had the money for him right then, but I was like, I don't feel like texting anybody to see if anybody wants to go because the only two people that I feel like would want to go, it was already late. And I was like, I can't text them right now. And then the next day I forgot about it, of course.
Yeah.
I was like, it might just be one of those things that it's like, I'll just get it like the day before or like a couple weeks before.
Yeah.
Because there's that concert, and then Nas and Wu-Tang are coming like 3 days before my birthday this year. So I want to go to that. And then me and Dad got tickets for a Broncos game this year. And we're going to Denver.
Nice.
So after he did that, I was like, let me just not spend money on anything. Because he bought me my ticket as my birthday gift for this year, 6 months early. So I was like, oh, cool, that's perfect. But then I realized I still got to buy a plane ticket. I got to get a hotel room. I was like, yeah, let me just not spend any more money on things right now. Let me give myself some space in between. But yeah, all of that should be, got a lot of stuff coming up this year. Should be fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for everything too. So we'll let you guys know how everything goes.
We'll see.
Your phone vibrated and it felt super strong.
Yeah, I felt it in my foot over here.
I was like, that definitely wasn't me. But I was like, my phone's the only phone here. I didn't see yours sitting there.
I thought it was sitting right here for a second because I felt when it vibrated, I felt it in my foot.
Yeah.
And I'm at least like 5 feet away from it. And I was like, what the hell? But I always think it's funny because like I'll be at home and I'll leave my phone upstairs in the room sometimes, and I'll go to the kitchen and then I'll clear as day, I'll hear my phone vibrate from upstairs. And then I go up, sure enough, I have a text message or a notification from some app. And then it's like I can hear Fariel's phone vibrating from upstairs. And we'll be downstairs and like, hey, I think somebody's calling you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I don't hear anything. And then she goes up, missed call. But it just, I don't know why these phones just, like the vibration's super strong.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
But anyways, we move on.
We move on to, like we said, a well-known story. I hadn't pieced two together, and this was in the show.
Yeah, elements of it. Okay. A lot of elements were in it. I don't remember if in the show Fisk finds out that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. I can't remember exactly, but there's a whole thing with the psychopath wearing his suit. And like murdering people. There's the element of him being taken care of by the nuns in the church. Can't remember exactly what happens in the show, but I remember those things kind of stuck out to me, where I was just like, oh, okay, like they took this and like used it for part of the show. So that was pretty cool. So essentially in the story for the listeners, this is basically the fall and the rising again of Daredevil, of Matt Murdock.
Yeah, I mean, the name DeMarco saying that definitely pushes the point forward, but after him saying that, the name of the episode kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
with it being born again, because he's at the start of this, he's down on some very hard times.
Yeah,
Crazy.
And what kept me going, because a lot of times we were like, okay, we're gonna read these 6 issues of this run or whatever, and that'll be your part. And then for me, it just kind of becomes not stale, but just kind of like, okay, I've seen this happen in this issue, and the same thing's happening in this issue. Mm-hmm. It's just more or less like, it can get kind of like repetitive.
Yeah.
But with this one, I found it kind of more interesting and engaging, because there wasn't a whole lot of superheroics happening. No. It was really just a man literally taking everything from another man and seeing exactly how far he can go before he's broken.
Yeah.
And I just found that super compelling and really interesting to watch, because I was just, you see Matt go to like the bottom. Mm-hmm. You see just how dirty Fisk can be with all the power that he has and all his pull. And you're just like, you're enticed. And it wasn't until kind of like towards the end when I was just like, okay, some of these people I don't care for, or like some of this, it's just kind of ending. So, you know, they're kind of like, okay, let's just kind of speed through some of this. But in the end, it still ended up being like a really interesting story to read.
Yeah. Even like the people that are around Matt are just kind of going through like it seems like everybody in his life is, except for like 1 or 2 people, are kind of just like going through the shits. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I feel, again, this is another thing that I feel like I've said a million times already, but it's odd that some people think that comic books are only for kids, because this story, granted, this was only 6 issues of the Daredevil story, but this was not for kids.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. And
there's going to be some episodes, and we've already had a few this season, but there's going to be some more coming up where it's like these stories are very clearly directed towards adults. It might be, and they might even be directing it at the people that started reading Daredevil when it first came out. Because this is 86. So this run of Daredevil started in 63, I think it was. So that's 23 years. I don't know how many people were reading from the beginning, but I'm 100% sure that those people that started reading it as a kid, and now they're adults, and now they have this story as an adult.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because it's like, what does that mean to have a story for adults, right? Because it's just like, kids are reading this, but I mean, at that time, that's definitely what the world was kind of looking like for some of these characters. Like, you may have known somebody who was going through some of the things, not exactly like the framing and losing your job and shit, but like, so you may have known someone who was addicted to drugs, or like just, you know, in a really bad spot. So it's like, as maybe like a teenager or a kid reading it, like, it's not the superheroics that you may have been used to, but at least it's something where you're like, okay, I know exactly what's going on.
Even the situation, like, we're going to get into it, of course, but like the situation was Foggy and I can't remember what her name was. Glory. She was dating Matt, or with Matt. And then all of a sudden, even if you're a kid in high school, or you're 25 or 32 or whatever, you've been through that situation, or you know somebody that's gone through it. Like, kids are gonna read it, but they hit a stride right here. And there's gonna be some other stories coming forward, like Craven's Last Hunt. It's like some real adult themes here. Well,
before we jump into it, I'm just going to give a quick rundown of some of like the main players that we're going to have in here. So if you guys aren't familiar with the character Daredevil, His street name, or his legal name, is Matt Murdock. He is a lawyer by day, vigilante by night. As a young kid, he was involved with in an accident where he jumped into the street to save a man from getting hit by a truck. In the chaos, some toxic waste fell from the truck, splashed in his face, and blinded him.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed him to have superhuman senses, so touch, not seeing, obviously.
Took that wrong.
Took his sight, but his touch, sense of smell, hearing, all of his senses were amplified to superhuman levels.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, he took it upon himself to train himself, but also he was trained in martial arts by a whole other story. But he is essentially now superhuman athlete, super great senses. He is the man without fear, as he's also known as.
Real quick, that same accident was also the accident that caused the Ninja Turtles to become what they are.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Look it up. We also have Wilson Fisk. If you guys are familiar, if you watched the show or even Hawkeye recently.
Yeah, Daredevil. If you watch the Netflix Daredevil shows, Hawkeye on Disney Plus.
Or even the animated Spider-Man show from the 90s. Yeah. He was in there. Essentially, he's a businessman, but he has his fingers in everything. Crime, drugs, everything. He is the Kingpin of New York. And him and Daredevil go to toe-to-toe all the time. And Daredevil usually comes out on top. But in this story, we're going to see that switched around a little bit. Yeah. Fisk has no powers or anything, really. He's just
a big guy.
Literally, like, almost a 7-foot tall guy. Just, he looks big and chunky, but it's all muscle.
Yeah, he looks big and fat, but, like, every time I see this man in a fight, he's just whooping ass.
Yeah, he's not easily going down.
No.
Who else is in this? We have Ben Urich, who is a reporter for the Daily Bugle, who gets involved with this. He is one of the only people that know that Matt is Daredevil. Mm-hmm. We also have Foggy Nelson, which is Matt's best friend and also his partner in their law firm. Mm-hmm. And we also have, who else is involved? Karen Page, who was their assistant / friend. Mm-hmm. Recently, she's fallen on some hard times.
Yeah, after she ended up getting into movies,
mm-hmm.
Being an actress at one point, and then that kind of faded quickly. And then she got herself into drugs, and that's kind of where she's at right now.
Yeah. And then, who else do we have?
Glory,
Matt's ex-girlfriend, and something between her and Foggy kind of starts to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty much... Oh, and we get into it later on. It's not too big, but there's a character named Nuke who also shows up as well. We'll go ahead and start off with the first issue. Forgive me, I don't remember. I didn't put down the issue numbers for these. I just put down the actual...
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes, but it was only 6 issues.
Yeah. All right. So the first title of the first issue is called Armageddon. And just based off of that, I can kind of tell you what's going to happen. So we begin our story in a dimly lit room with 2 people in it. One a heavier set man, kind of a creep. The other a sickly looking blonde, looking to get her necks fixed. Offering a secret so big it can change everything. We then see a meeting amongst criminals on a boat in international waters. A gigantic man is handed a letter. This is the beginning of the apocalypse. We then jump to Matt Murdock just waking up from a night of crime fighting, exhausted and out of work. He is barely taking time for himself and is taking a beating at night in his private and public life. So recently he's also no longer a lawyer with Foggy. They don't have their law firm anymore. They're just... Matt's just kind of looking for work. And Foggy's also looking for work, but he's kind of more in a better position than Matt.
Yeah, Matt's been kind of checked out at this point for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of... Foggy says he's not showing up for work a lot. If he does, he's showing up halfway through the day.
Yeah. So. It's a classic superhero 2 lives thing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You can't really balance those things.
Trust me. Being Daybreak is a lot. I get no sleep.
And so things get worse when out of the blue, Matt notices that there's mail being dropped to his mailbox. He reads through the mail with his fingers, because remember, super touch.
Mm-hmm.
He can read the ink on the paper.
Yeah, that's
just
how
by
heightened
touch.
his senses are.
Yeah.
He doesn't even need Braille. He can figure out what letters are on the page just
Yeah.
by running his finger over that.
So he reads the mail, and it says that his mortgage is past due 2 months. He also finds out the IRS is going to audit him, and all his money that he has is frozen. So he thinks, oh, this is strange and weird, but like, I'll survive, I guess. And then he starts going to all of his associates to find out that he's blackballed through all of his connections.
Yeah.
Lawyers, attorneys, everything. Just nobody can help him. And everybody sees him as sort of like poison. Like if they work with him, they're done.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of cuts him off. We then take a break from Matt, and we meet up with his friend Foggy. And Matt's now ex-girlfriend, Glory. Her apartment was just burglarized, and she's scared to be alone, so Foggy offers to take her to his place, where she can stay. We then jump to the Daily Bugle, and we see a middle-aged man named Ben Urich, a reporter for the Bugle. Ben is handed a telegram stating that Matt Murdock is now being investigated for a bunch of criminal charges. Ben is one of the only few, like I mentioned, Ben's one of the only few people who knows Matt is Daredevil, and he knows these accusations are total BS. So he knows Matt's not,
he knows there's
criminal
no reason for him to be getting audited.
He's probably like the most honest man that he knows. Foggy and Glory start getting close to a fire, so they're just, Foggy's trying to console her, and you can tell things are she's kind of pushing towards it a little bit more, but he knows that's Matt's ex, and he doesn't know if he should really get into, all that.
Foggy.
We then jump back to Matt going over all the accusations against him, and he notices that a lot of charges were brought forward by one cop. And I'm sorry, I forgot to put the cop's name in this until the very end, and I don't want to go through. I think his name is Lieutenant Melrossi or something. I think so. I think I put it in towards the end, but I didn't think to check in the beginning.
Yeah, we'll get the name in a second.
Yeah. So, this one cop, he's been on the force for over 20 years, never had a bad case against him, never, lied or anything. Always a top-notch cop. And then all of a sudden, as he's about to retire, he has all these accusations against Matt that obviously they're going to take into consideration because this cop is supposed to be top-notch number one.
Mm-hmm.
And so Matt decides to put on his costume and take a visit to the cop dressed as Daredevil. He asked him why he decided now to start lying about Matt. And there's a small altercation between him and the cop. And Daredevil jumps out the window. The cop starts making a call to somebody saying what's going on. Mm-hmm. But Daredevil didn't actually leave. He's just kind of outside the window listening. And he hears that the cop was told to make those lies. If he did, he would get help for his son, who's also very sick. And so from there, Matt's just like, okay, someone is trying to get to me by having all these accusations brought upon me. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of who's it going to be. And so back home, Matt notices that his gas and his phone bill and his phone is turned off. The days go on, and Matt is now on his last few dollars. He's tired and frustrated, getting more violent as the days go on with no real answers. So he's going to literally every dive bar or criminal bar that he knows, just trying to figure out who knows what and why they're doing this to him. Mm-hmm. And because he has no water, he has no electricity, it's really uncomfortable. And as any of us know, if you don't get enough sleep, you're just cranky.
Yeah.
And now pile 3 days on top of that with no money or anything.
No money, no sleep. He has no power at his house.
Yeah.
He can't call anybody to help him out.
Yeah. So he's more and more reluctant to pull his punches now. Mm-hmm. He's just more violent. And so all this is happening, and the Kingpin is lining up more ways to make Matt's life hell. So he's just like, okay, because he has surveillance on him. He's just watching him, and he's figuring out, okay, he's at this point now. What more can I do to him to make his life
he's literally
torture?
Playing a game with him.
Yeah. And then so, with no answers and feeling like his life couldn't get worse, just as Matt's about to go to his kind of cold and dark apartment, the only safe place he has. He feels a rumble in the ground, and then boom, his apartment is gone.
Blown to pieces.
Blown up, like whole apartment.
Like the whole building.
Not just
even just his. The whole building.
The whole building just brought down.
So you already didn't have anything left, basically. Literally all of your money is frozen.
Yeah.
You can't go get a hotel or anything. You had no water, no power, nothing. And then your shit just gets blown up.
Yeah. It's one thing to just like take someone's money.
Yeah.
And their power and make them pretty much say like, hey, your home's going to be taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But to literally just blow it up
well,
now.
You can't even go to your neighbor's house to like stay with them for a couple of days. Like, hey, like something, I got some stuff going on. Can I just stay here for a couple of days? No. Everybody's shit is gone.
Yeah.
The whole building.
And so the last thing we see is Matt. He walking through the rubble, finds his Daredevil suit in tatters, and is in tears. Like literally nothing. He has nothing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to his name. He has $10 in his pocket, and just the clothes on his back. So he's a broken man now, and still with no answers. And that's the end of the first issue. Second issue is titled Purgatory. So if you guys know anything about Purgatory, it's just nothing, right?
Yeah, and real quick, this is hands down the best cover I've ever seen in my life.
Which one is this one? Oh yeah, that.
Like I'll post it with the show notes and on Instagram this week, but I don't know why they thought that this was the best way to go with this cover.
Every time I looked at that, I was just like, I don't like looking at this.
It really makes you uncomfortable. Like the more you stare at it, the more you get uncomfortable.
Imagine waking up and that's just staring at you.
Like that's one of those people that's just he's homeless for sure. For sure.
And so in this issue, we catch up with Matt. He's now in a hotel, a rat and roach infested hotel. Cold, no blankets. Like I said, all he has is the clothes on his back.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really not getting any sleep there. With nothing to his name, with his last few dollars going towards this, he maybe has $2 left.
Yeah.
And he's even more irritable and frustrated. And so when the guy comes to collect his money for Matt's stay, Matt basically chokes him out. And when I say choke him out, I'm not like he puts him in a headlock and no, he literally grabs the man by the neck and just slowly lowers him to the ground.
Yeah, he doesn't even grab him with the one hand and lifts him up.
No,
he just grabs him by the neck and slowly just takes him down to the ground.
And then in the dialogue bubbles, he's like, "That was an easy feint." How many people do you make faint where you're just like, that was easy?
That was a lot easier than it usually is. But imagine the guy like waking up in front of his door because he didn't move him. He just
steps over.
Yeah. And then later on, the guy's gonna wake up in front of the door. Like, what happened?
Where's my $8?
Oh man, I'm gonna be short on my children.
And so Matt chokes this guy out for no reason, and then so we jump to Kingpin, or Fisk, I should say. I will say I may be jumping between Fisk and Kingpin. Mm-hmm. Literally same person. There's really no... Yeah.
He doesn't change it at any point.
Yeah. And I don't know if he prefers Fisk or Kingpin, but he gets both.
Yeah.
And I may go back and forth with Matt and Daredevil. Usually I try to stay with Matt when he's not dressed as Daredevil.
Yeah.
So one thing he does have, though, is the truth. And at this point, he knows Kingpin is involved with this in some way. Mm-hmm. And so we cut to Kingpin, actually, and he's working out in his huge gym, and he has one of his assistants giving him a detailed explanation of what's going on with Matt because they have surveillance on him. And so the guy's explaining that he's been watching him on the train. He gets on the train. There's these kids with like guns and they're trying to rob people on the train, whatever. Matt's just sitting there, calm, collected, not helping anybody else who's being robbed of their stuff. But the moment a gun gets put in his face, he takes these guys out like it's nothing. and he's just whooping ass and everything. But the moment the train stops, the cops are already there waiting for, the suspects who were robbing people. And for some reason, the cop tells Matt to freeze, nobody move out. We want to assess what's going on here. Matt decides to almost break the cop's wrist and beat his ass for some reason. And so
he's a broken man.
And so the assistant is telling Fisk this, and Fisk is loving it. He knows at this point he's starting to lose it. And he knows that he's starting to break him down to basically nothing. And so Matt's desperate now. So like I said, he beat up the cops, so he's desperate. He was wanting to get his Fisk and finish this. He's being gaslit and he just wants his life back. So Matt makes his way to Fisk's office. The two face off with each other. No words, just face to face and just violence. So the two have just a bloody fight. It seems like they're almost equal at some point. They trade heavy blows one after another, neither ever really getting the upper hand on each other at first. But since Matt hasn't had, any rest and no food or anything, he's really not at his peak fighting. And so Fisk knows this, and he's basically just kind of like letting Matt get a few punches in. But once Matt is showing some sign of just being tired, Fisk just lays into him. And he starts just whooping his ass and lays one final blow on him, knocks him unconscious. Next thing Matt knows, he's waking up in a taxi at the bottom of the river, water rushing in. He knows this isn't going to go well.
No.
So he gets out of that, and water rushing in. We find out that Fisk made it look like Matt beat a taxi driver to death and stole his cab as a getaway car, and then crashed it into the river. Fisk, overlooking the city from his penthouse, is happy. Finally, Matt is gone. He's at the bottom of the river, sleeping with the fishes, and Fisk can move on with his plans. Except for one thing. There's no body. They don't find the body. All they find is a taxi cab with the windshield kicked out. And with this, Matt Murdock is still alive, and Kingpin will not rest until he finds the body of Matt Murdock.
It's on a mission for this guy.
Yeah. At this point, you kind of see the cracks starting to form in Fisk, where he's like, okay, this is my life now. And his business partners are starting to kind of see, like, you're starting to put this over business and money.
Yeah.
And they're starting to kind of question whether or not he's fit to be in the position he's in.
Yeah. And I don't live in their world, obviously, but I feel like everybody that works with Fisk should know to not question.
Yeah, I don't know who these people think they are.
It's just like, you should know that whatever you're doing, he's letting you do.
Yeah.
This isn't, oh no, I run this area. You run that because he lets you do it. So the minute you start questioning anything, you should probably know that you're like on very thin ice.
So you know the connections this man has. Why are you trying to
You see him just kill people for less. He let you in his office and you're gonna question him.
In the beginning of the issue, the woman, she sells the secret to the guy.
Yeah.
He takes that secret and sells it up and up and up until it gets to Fisk. He gets the letter, reads it, asks if it's true, and they're like, yeah, our sources are saying it's true. And he literally says, kill anybody who's ever put hands on this letter. Like,
that letter went up a chain of people. And he's told the last person that handed it to him, kill everybody that touched it.
Like, I'm not messing with somebody who has that kind of power. Definitely not questioning anything that they do.
No.
You got the handbook here, bud. Like, I'm following everything you're doing.
I've seen this man kill people for less. And he told you to kill everybody else that touched this. You better get to it. You better do it quick. Oh, and then one thing, too, that you didn't mention. It's probably not even, like, important to the story. After he got the note saying what was going on, he waited, like, months before he started anything.
Because he wanted that plan to be perfect.
Yeah. Like, took his time with it.
Yeah. All right, so on to the issue number 3. This one is titled Pariah. I'm not too sure what a pariah is, but it just means somebody who's, like, an outcast, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we start this issue Cold, hurt, and alone, asleep on the street, Matt reminisces back to when he was in the hospital after his life-changing accident. He remembers a woman who wore a cross visited him. He didn't know who this woman was, but she felt safe. Flashing forward, we catch back up with Foggy and Glory, who have become an item. It's been a week since they heard from Matt. They don't really know where he's at. They do know he's in trouble, but they don't know where he's at, and they can't really help him.
Yeah.
It also seems like they kind of don't want to help him, too.
Yeah, they don't make many efforts to go searching for him in any way.
They're kind of just like, he's in trouble.
Matt's in trouble, guys.
Okay, let's go do something else.
What do you want for dinner?
And so we then cut back to Ben Urich. He's arrived at a hospital, and he walks into a room occupied by Lieutenant, what did I say? Melrossi. I'm going to call him Lieutenant Melrossi. I don't know if that's his real name.
I think it's close.
When
I was looking for it, all I could find was his first name was Nick.
Yeah.
But
So we'll call him Melrossi until we proven otherwise.
yeah.
It's occupied by him, his sick son, and a female nurse. Urich knows that something's going on. He knows, like, you don't just become a cop for 20 years, clean record, and all of a sudden you have all these accusations.
Yeah.
So he knows what's going on, but he wants the cop to admit what's really happening. He lights up a cigarette in the hospital room. The nurse tells him to put it out. And then we jump back to Matt. Now he's waking up, disoriented and not looking good, wearing the same clothes he's been wearing for the past 2 weeks. He stumbles out into traffic and gets hit by a car immediately. But he gets back up, determined not to let being hurt or sick or tired deter his drive to figure out exactly what's going on and take Fisk down.
Listen, guys, don't let your determination get you killed.
So he stumbles back onto the street. And when he got hit, it looked pretty bad too.
Yeah.
His leg was bent in a way.
Yeah, that legs don't bend that way.
And so he stumbles back up to the street and through an alley, and he notices 2 criminals dressed as Santa Claus. Their plan basically is to just wait outside stores and collect the donations, and that's all they plan on doing.
Right.
But they did beat up a few Santa Clauses to get these suits, so they're not all that innocent. Matt tries to stop them from their crime, but he gets stabbed in the process. So now, tired, hurt, cold, alone, and stabbed, bleeding out. We then jump back to the hospital, and we find out Lieutenant Nick, his son didn't make it through the surgery that was supposed to save him. So at this point, he did all that. Yeah, he got the surgery, but it didn't even change the outcome of what was happening.
No.
He's a broken man, and he decides to have a change of heart, and he starts talking to Ben about exactly what's going on. But the Kingpin is always watching. No matter where, who's involved, he has people listening and watching. So Ben and Nick make it outside, and they start talking about what's been going on. We then see the nurse from the hospital charge them. And they're just like, okay, we're outside. Like, what do you want? And she just clocks Nick and knocks him out. And while he's out, she basically just manhandles Ben.
Yeah.
Hand behind his back, tells him, you're not going to talk about this at all. Kingpin doesn't want you talking. He doesn't want you involved. I can't kill you, or else that's going to make it too dirty. So what I'll do is I'll break your fingers. So she snaps all of his fingers on his one hand as a message to just remember, just stay out of this. This has nothing to do with you.
You ever think, sometimes I wonder, does it hurt? You think it hurts more to know that your fingers are going to break or have it happen on accident?
Probably to know.
I would think so.
Because
then you're just focused on your fingers.
Yeah.
Just staring at them.
You're just like,
gonna break.
Oh no, that one's going to break now. This one. But if it just happened, you're just like, fuck, that hurt. But
yeah,
I didn't know it was going to happen.
And mind you guys, this nurse is not some little scrawny little nurse from...
She's big, bulky.
Yeah. And
can probably kick your ass, even if you're the strongest person.
Yeah, she would probably whoop your ass. She has to be Wilson's sister.
We then flash, after Ben gets his fingers broken, we then flash back to Matt. Again, bleeding, tired, and broken, heading to the last safe place that he knows, the Fogwell's gym, which is where his father used to practice boxing and train and everything. So it was almost like his dad's second home, which made it Matt's almost second home. So he heads inside. He tries to keep up with everything. He tries to throw a punch at the punching bag. He gets maybe one on, throws another one, and it's just, he has no strength to do it.
Too much.
He collapses right there on the floor. And then we see a woman walk in, and all she says is, Matt. And then we jump back to Fisk, now looking more crazed than ever, still obsessing over the lack of a body, knowing that since there is no body, he's out there somewhere, and he needs to finish this before Matt can get his strength back and keep bothering him.
Yeah.
And so that's where that issue ends. So far, yeah, it's been a wild ride so far for Matt. I also will say I've skipped a lot of like the Foggy and Glory stuff because really it has nothing to do with the story. It's just them getting closer.
If any of you go back and read any of the stuff, or you decide that you want to read through the Daredevil stuff, then it's going to make more sense to the story.
Yeah.
Especially going forward.
Yeah.
But for this, just for the telling of this story, it's like a subplot that doesn't change anything.
I mean, they kind of tie into it later on, but me just mentioning that they're there is more than enough information that you need for them.
Yeah.
Let's see. So on to the next issue number 4. That's titled Born Again. Matt, slipping in and out of consciousness, relives the past couple of weeks as he's been beaten, stabbed, drowned, house blown up, everything. He's just reliving everything and can barely make it through, but he's holding on. Catching up with everybody at this point. Foggy gets a new job, hired by someone. We'll find out who later. But he's an attorney, so he gets hired by this company. Fisk is still obsessing over finding Murdock. Ben Urich, who now knows fear after Fisk ordered one of his lackeys to break his fingers, and now won't even mention the name Matt Murdock. He won't say, he won't let anyone else mention it. He just wants nothing to do with this.
After that experience, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. And then in this new manic state, Fisk knows that he needs something more direct, more dangerous. And so he tells his assistant to find a man called Nuke. And that's all we hear for now. Jumping back to Matt, he wakes up in the church infirmary and is being looked over by a nun named Sister Maggie. There's something familiar about her. He just doesn't understand what, but she's not sweet and kind to him, but she's very protective of him in a way.
Yeah, kind of motherly.
Yeah. And so we then jump to Karen Page. So I've kind of skipped everything Karen had done up to this point just because it can all be summed up into her being the one to sell. Basically, she sold Matt's secret for a fix. Yeah. That's what led to all this. And ever since then, she's felt terrible about it, and she knows she needs to get back because she's in South America.
Yeah. And
this whole time, she's been on the run, basically, to find a way to America. But because Fisk sent that order down to kill anybody who knows, they're now down to Karen, and they've been chasing her. And so that's pretty much where she's
been on the run this whole time.
Yeah.
Avoiding that.
So that's where she's been this whole time. And so she calls Foggy and she says, I need help. Like, I did something terrible. Can you help me? I need to see you. So they go and have dinner and she explains everything. Not everything, because Foggy doesn't know that Matt's Daredevil is either. So she kind of just says that she feels terrible and she needs help. And Foggy's like, well, you can stay with me. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to help you out. And so they have their moment. Meanwhile, Ben Urich tells J. Jonah Jameson that he can't work on the story anymore, and he won't work on it. It's not worth his life or his family's life, and Fisk has people everywhere. So he tells him he won't work on it, and that he wants to be put on like a more safe type of thing. Jonah calls him weak and tells him that that's not what he's here for. He's here to tell hard-hitting stories and to find the truth. And so he leaves Jameson's office, and the janitor tells him that he's a good boy for listening, and Fisk is always watching. So Fisk literally has people planted everywhere.
Imagine how frightening that has to be. You're a reporter, and you already got your fingers broken by one of Fisk's people at the hospital. And then you go to work, you're like, oh no, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. Leave it alone, I'm not doing it anymore. And then you come out, and then the janitor comes to you and says, yeah, good job. You're right to do that. Like, the janitor?
Can you imagine if it's the same janitor who's been there before all this happened?
Yeah.
You guys could have had some, rapport, joked around.
You see him in the elevator on the way down. Hey, what's going on? You've known this guy for years.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, you made the right
smart
choice. Fisk will find you.
Tyler, what the hell?
He has a gun in the water bucket.
He pulls it out of the mop bucket. You just keep your mouth shut. You know what's gonna happen, Ben. He just drops it back into the mop bucket.
All right, pal. See you later. Just pass him on the back at you outside. That'd be terrifying.
That would be horrible.
Yeah. So, working on a news story that's less bone breaky, Ben gets a call from the cop, who's also in the hospital. So, Lieutenant Nick. Mm-hmm. He's in the hospital. His legs are broken because he decided to talk. And they told him not to even contact Urich anymore. Mm-hmm. But he decides to call him and say, hey, like, I need to finish this. We need to, make things right.
Yeah.
And Ben just tells him, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't want to talk about it.
Never heard of him.
You got the wrong number, pal. And he's just like, no, I got to tell you, shut up and just let me talk. Mm-hmm. What he doesn't see, though, is the same nurse. Fisk's lackey is nearby. So she hears him make this call. And while he's on the phone with Ben, she takes the phone from him and says, you're going to listen while I do this, and puts the phone down. And Ben's just horrified. He can't, there's all this commotion going around. They're trying to get the newspaper out. It's like 20 minutes before print.
Yeah, he hasn't even finished his little flower story.
Yeah. And all he can do is just listen while this nurse is literally choking the life out of this man, hearing him gurgle and choke on himself, and until he just hears the crack of his neck. And then she picks up the phone and says, thank you for listening, and just hangs up. And at that point, Ben is just totally shook. Like, he doesn't want anything to do with it. Yeah, he can't say anything. He doesn't want to say anything. Because he knows if anything happens, he's next in line. Mm-hmm. And so he got the message from that. We then jump to Karen and Foggy having dinner and everything. I kind of jumped ahead before. A few days pass, and Ben decides that he's not going to be silenced by the fear. He knows that this is what he's supposed to do as a reporter. Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. Sometimes things have to happen. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, your job is to tell the right story and to expose people for their crimes. And so he decides he's going to pick the story back up. Back at the church infirmary, Matt and Sister Maggie are talking, and Matt thinks back to the day that woman came to the hospital and realizes that Sister Maggie was that woman. Something's familiar about it, and he simply asks her, are you my mother? And she says no, but because his senses are so heightened, he knows when someone is lying just based off of their heartbeat, and her heartbeat changes, so he knows she's lying. We jump back to Fisk, and now he has a plan. He told his assistant to find the pharmacist, or not the pharmacist, but someone who knows their psychotics. Mm-hmm. He mentions psychotics. And essentially his plan now is to get somebody to kind of draw Matt out. And that's the end of the issue. Next issue is called Saved. So all of a sudden now Matt's healed. He's healed, ready to go.
He just needed the love of the Lord. That was it.
He's back to his old self. And he's ready for whatever Fisk throws at him. The nurse that injured Ben is told by her employers that her work has cost too much attention and that they're sending her to Arizona, which, I mean, if you know Arizona, it's kind of just, if you go from New York to Arizona, two different sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And she's not happy about this, so she decides to take things into her own hands. We jump back to Matt. He's actually been working at a diner just in the kitchen. His skills are being put to use because he knows when eggs are perfectly runny when you make sunny side eggs. And so it's the same diner that Ben goes to because it helps him write. And the food's not that good, but it's whatever. Ben had also gone to the police to let them know that of all the information that he has. And so they assigned a detail to him, somebody just to be with him at all times to protect him.
Yeah.
And who is it? Ben and his detail are sitting there, and in the booth next to them, without them knowing, Matt's also there, just kind of listening to what's happening. And then we jump to Ben's apartment, and we see the nurse show up. She knocks at the door and says, "Miss Urich, this is blah, blah, blah. It's about your husband, Ben. He's in trouble." But she kind of knows something's off because she literally just got off the phone with him.
Yeah.
And so she's taking her sweet time opening the door until all of a sudden the door gets kicked in and the nurse picks up the phone and she's like, "I'm here. You better get here quick." And so Ben and the detail show up and they get ambushed by the nurse. She takes both of them out pretty easily, even though the cop is like her height or bigger.
Yeah.
Looks pretty formidable, but no, she just demolishes him. We jump to Fisk, who his whole plan, the whole psychotics thing and everything, he wants somebody, a murderer, basically, a psychotic person, to dress up as Daredevil and to go murder Foggy. And essentially that'll really just destroy Matt, and really bring him out. And so we see Foggy and Karen in the apartment. The man that helped Karen get to America, this real sleazeball, like gross, like creep.
Yeah.
He's been following her because he told her, if she leaves, I'll find you and I will kill you. And so he finds them and he's just outside the apartment building.
He's outside and she's just having to peek through the window. He's like, "Hey."
So she's freaking out. And she's like, "I gotta go. If he comes up here and finds me, like, he's gonna kill both of us." Yeah. And so Foggy's like, no, like, I'll go take care of this.
No.
And so all this stuff is happening. And also Fisk told, forgot his name. Is his alias Gladiator? Forgot what his alias was. But essentially he was a villain. Reformed his life. He was actually on the show. The guy who makes Matt's suit and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Fisk sends his associates to his shop because he has a shop where he does make suits for superheroes, and tells them, "Make this suit, or we're going to take your shop away." And so they tell him to make a Daredevil suit so that the Psycho Man can wear it and commit the crime. And so that night, he doesn't want to do it because he knows Daredevil's a good guy. He doesn't want to tarnish his name like that. But he's on the phone with his girlfriend / psychiatrist. And he's like, "I need help. I don't know what to do." And he's about to give up. And then Matt shows up and is like, "Make the suit. Like, nobody's going to get hurt." And he's like, "Cool. Like, you're back. I'll make the suit." And so he makes the suit. Fisk's people come in, pick it up, and they dress the guy as Daredevil. And they tell him, 5B. You're going to... 5Bs, you're going to go on the roof, go down through there, get to apartment 5B, kill anybody who's in there, and that's it. And then the murderer, the psycho, kills Fisk's associate, and then goes about with the plan. So there's all these things happening at that one apartment building. Matt's back into his house. He's ready to, kick back into things. The gangster guy's ready to kill Foggy and Karen. this psycho murderer guy is there to kill Foggy and anybody else who's there. So all these things are connecting back to one. And also at the apartment, Ben is he's basically about to be killed by the nurse as well. So Matt saves Ben. He goes to the apartment, takes out the nurse lady, handcuffs her while Ben is saving his wife because the nurse also hung her. So she's about to die.
Shower,
yeah. So Ben saves her, comes back out. He notices that the nurse lady is handcuffed. His cop detail's knocked out still, but his wife is alive and safe. And he's good. Matt books it down to Foggy's apartment. And then at this point, the gangster guy who's looking for Karen, he kills 2 cops, which brings more attention. Plus, Fisk associates are also there, who are ready to have a shootout. Matt makes it to the top of the roof, beats the guy dressed as Daredevil. Which, I mean, it wasn't too hard. The guy was just a normal, crazy guy.
He's not a superhero.
Yeah. So, Matt kicks his ass and then saves Karen from the gangster guy, because the gangster guy got shot too. And instead of... Karen was not going to help him. She was going to take the last of his heroin and just shoot up and then die. But he was like, oh, you asshole. So he was going to shoot her with his last breath and was like, you're coming with me. But then Matt knocks an icicle down, which like stabs his arm, which prevents him from shooting her. And then the cops come. I think they arrest this guy. They arrest the psycho guy who's naked on the roof now. Foggy and Karen are both safe. But now Karen and Matt are back together. They see each other.
They've seen each other.
Yeah, and that's what they needed to be whole again. Yeah. And so that's the end of that issue. So now we're on Armageddon. Oh no, this is God and Country. So for those who don't know, Nuke, he is a supervillain, but he's a superhero, human like Captain America. That's what they were going for. They were going to try to replicate the formula. Eventually, it didn't turn out exactly how they wanted it to, and they got somebody who was really weak-minded, which caused him to go insane, but have all this strength and just feel like he's like for America only. Yeah. And so they kind of control him based off of these 3 pills. They have red, white, and blue pills. I believe the red ones amp him up and get him like super like in the zone. Yeah. And then I believe the blue ones calm him down, and the white ones are kind of more just so he's more accepting of like control and everything. But so we catch up with Ben. He's still running his story, trying to get everything going. He's talking to Foggy in the park, and they're just kind of going over, I haven't talked to Matt in a while. I don't know where he's at. I can't really get into a lot of detail. Foggy being a shitty friend. And then we jump over to Nuke, and the government basically just uses him they send him into countries where they just want to cause distraction and, meddle in foreign affairs. So they throw Nuke in there, but Fisk has the pool just to be like, hey, I need to borrow your asset to, for my own gain. Yeah. And so he pulls Nuke.
It's just another reason people shouldn't fuck with this guy.
Yeah. Like, you're literally pulling military assets into your own little game. Yeah. And you don't give a shit of what happened.
You have the military under your thumb? Yeah. Do whatever you want to do, sir.
I didn't mention it at all, but Fisk is he's killed one guy who spoke up to him. He fired another one and then broke his legs, so he couldn't go on a skiing trip. Oh, and then he killed all those people that touched the letter. Yeah.
So this is over the span of some time, but yeah, he's killed a good amount of people.
He's nobody to mess with. And so at this point, Glory and Ben, Glory's a photographer. Yeah. And through the connections of Foggy and Ben and Matt, Ben's just been like, hey, you want to be my photographer? And Glory's like, yeah, cool.
Yeah. I needed a job.
And so they go to a prison because they're going to go talk to the nurse that been beating everybody. So they go there to interview her, but then Fisk, being Fisk, also has the cops on his payroll and the guard. So they lock the door and they're just going to murder everybody. They pop the nurse in the face, and then they're going to...
When I read that, I was like, what the hell is this?
So they kill her. They take out the detail that's supposed to be protecting them. And Glory just sitting there taking pictures.
Yeah, that was...
She just getting shots off, just like, oh yeah, like good angles and everything. Ben is not having it. He's like, I'm done with all this intimidation and shit.
Didn't he shoot somebody too?
I think he shot one of the cops, and then he wrestled the gun from another one, and then beat him to death with the butt of the gun.
Yeah, like that was nuts. Like the cop that was following Ben around is he's not good at his job.
No, he got shot in the stomach and been down.
He got beat up by the nurse first, and then he's like one of the first people shot in the room.
Yeah, they literally just gave him somebody who's tall.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's good at their job or strong. There's like, he's tall and intimidating enough.
Yeah, he had to be one of those cops that was on like desk detail.
Yeah.
Before this. Just get out there.
Just looks scary. And then, so finally, Ben's shook because he just murdered somebody. And then we jump to Fisk, who has Nuke in his office. And Nuke is it's kind of funny because he's a big, strong, blonde-haired guy, but he literally has the American flag tattooed over his face.
Yeah.
And it's just always there. It's just the American flag just tattooed on his face.
And he's so, like you said, he's kind of lost his mind.
Yeah.
And the drugs are what keeps him in place.
Yeah.
When they're trying to do stuff, and he's just like, it was probably like the most like gym bro frat boy, like always drunk 24/7 and like supremely strong.
Yeah,
and that's him.
Yeah,
with this American flag tattoo on his face.
And so Nuke and Fisk are having this conversation. And Fisk is just saying all the right words to make him feel like this is for the country. People don't understand us. We got to get out there and show them that this is America and the American dream has to live. And you need to help us, get that point across. Yeah. And he's just like, yeah, America.
Hell yeah.
So then he gives him his plans. Matt's still working at his restaurant, being the best guy ever, telling people how to cook eggs and, hey, you're about to burn that egg. The yolk's about to not be as runny. And so he leaves, and then as he's leaving, he feels, with his senses, he feels the air change. There's something in the air coming. And so this helicopter comes down, and Nuke just jumps out with his big gun, and it's just firing shots off it everywhere. Firing shots. He has like napalm that he's just throwing, and he's literally just wrecking this town for no reason. Innocent people.
He has no care for anybody else.
Yeah. And Matt can't really do anything. He's Daredevil, but he can't stop bullets.
Yeah.
So, there's people getting shot and buildings falling on him and everything. So he decides to try to take some action, but he's already kind of far. This is all happening. His diner and where Nuke actually landed was maybe like a few blocks. So in the process of him running there, there's just going to be death and chaos happening without anything he can do about it. So he gets there, and they also blow up his building again where he's living. Luckily, Karen's fine, and she's holding on to his Daredevil outfit. She's like, yoink, I need that.
Moves the rocks, put them on top of her. Bam, I need that.
And he just leaves her there.
Yeah. He puts the rocks back on top of her.
And so he shows up at the scene of the crime, and he basically distracts Nuke, and that's when the confrontation begins to happen. The last panel is pretty cool because this one is just the flames and his Daredevil flames. I might actually use that as like a wallpaper.
I took a screenshot of that when I was reading it.
And then the next issue is where it all ends. This one actually follows, or Captain America is involved with this one.
Yeah.
So all this chaos is happening. Nuke is just, at this point, they're trying to call him off because there's already been so much chaos, buildings destroyed, people dying. They're like, that's enough. Mm-hmm. But because of what Fisk was telling Nuke about Matt and trying to stop the dream, he knows, like, I'm not stopping until that guy's dead. Like, he's trying to ruin America. Sound familiar, anybody?
Anybody? If it does, you should get help.
And so this whole time, Nuke's just been on like the side of a helicopter shooting.
Yeah.
But when he sees Daredevil, he's like, "No, I'm going down there. You can't stop me."
Now it's time to get to business.
And so they have like this huge fight. Matt can only move out the way. Like Nuke is he's not just a man. There's also been other experience done on him, so his body's like not the same as any of ours. Yeah. So Matt's just trying to lay anything into him, hits, pressure points, anything. None of it's really working. And he's quick, so it's just kind of like an uneven fight. So Matt has to start fighting dirty too. So he goes for the eyes, goes for pressure points. Still, nothing's happening. And Fisk is just watching this all happen from his penthouse, just like, cool. Like, I don't give a shit what's going on. Let these people die. Let everything happen. It's not going to fall back on me because I have the military under my thumb. Like, these people will fall for me before they even squeal. And so Matt finally gets the upper hand on him and kicks Nuke off the roof, and he lands on some power lines, gets electrocuted, and then from there falls onto a car. And then Matt jumps off the building, lands on top of Nuke on the car and pushes him further in. And then the helicopter falls on top of Nuke. And you would think, oh man, okay, like he kind of killed somebody. Yeah. But no, he gets back up and he walks through the flames, gun and everything. And there's another helicopter that is like trying to take out Matt. Mm-hmm. But then he uses the gun and shoots it into the helicopter, essentially killing that pilot.
It's a game of murder.
But he knows he has to because there's no other way.
What are you going to do?
So then he's about to fight Nuke, and Glory's there too with Ben. Mm-hmm. She's taking pictures, but she gets shot saving Ben. And then Captain America shows up in the Avengers. So Captain America shows up, orders Thor to cause a thunderstorm to put out the fire. Matt's getting ready to take Nuke out, and then Iron Man shows up and is like, hey, under federal law, this is our problem now. Mm-hmm. So, back up.
Back up. Don't kill him.
So Matt's like, all right, whatever. Take the guy. And Captain America is there. Jumping back to Fisk and his associates. One guy, again, decides to speak up and...
Stupid.
Tell Fisk how stupid he's being. And Fisk is like, all right, well, you're dead. So he kills him. And then we jump forward a little bit. Cap is there to talk to... Well, essentially, he's there to talk to Matt. Cap is there to talk to Matt about, I guess, sort of America and all that. And Captain America he's starting to have some feelings about this man destroying this town and wearing the American flag and Captain America being Captain America. And so Ben writes a story. Mystery Killer attacks Hell's Kitchen, Dozens dead. So he's getting more and more brave about putting stuff out there. Yeah. And then Captain America goes to visit the military. And they're just like, oh yeah, we don't know anything. Like, that's just crazy.
I've never seen this guy.
We got tons of assets, and sometimes they just do their own thing.
He went AWOL.
We'll take care of it, though. But then Captain America just slaps this guy. It's not even like a full, like, superhero, like, backhand slap. It's just like a little, like, slap across the face. Because he's like... They're in an elevator, and he's like, oh, I need to go to this floor. And the guy's like, oh, that's off limits, sir. And he slaps him. And then, so Captain America, he goes to that floor to kind of figure out how this Nuke guy became Nuke. And essentially it's because they try to use Captain America's formula, and then he's just like America's twisted Captain America.
Yeah.
And Captain America starts to feel some type of way about, is he really serving America to the best of his abilities, or is he just kind of another tool?
Yeah.
And the military does have Nuke in their custody, and they're trying to like calm him down and like, put him back on their leash.
Mm-hmm.
But he breaks out again, and then he takes all the pills. Normally they just give him one red pill.
Yeah.
But he literally downs a whole bottle of red pills and goes AWOL. And then Captain America's there already to save the day. So him and Nuke have like a little fight. Fisk is jumping back to Fisk. He's getting an award for being best businessman, philanthropist, or whatever he is. And then Captain America and Nuke are still fighting. Daredevil is also there to... He found like a secret hideout, and he steals a bunch of money from Fisk because the diner that he worked at got destroyed in all the chaos. So he's going to give that money to the family so they can either rebuild or move on. Then, I'm not going to go into the whole Captain America fight thing, but essentially, him and the fight kind of separates. Daredevil's there, and he steals Nuke. Like, they jump in a taxi, and Daredevil's driving, which I think happened in like the Fantastic Four wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he commandeered the big ass tanker truck.
I don't know how this man still thinks he can drive, but he takes him to the Daily Bugle, and then Nuke decides to like, oh yeah, this is what happened. So they spill all the beans to Ben. Ben writes a story, and essentially everything comes down on Fisk. He doesn't get arrested, but with all the litigation and now he's exposed, like, no one's going to want to be associated with him. And so at the end of the day, Daredevil wins again. And he has his life back.
That was a good story.
It was a good story. Like I said, not a lot of superheroics in it. Not till the end. And even then, it wasn't like super, like oversaturated with superheroes coming in or like amazing feats or anything like that. I thought the art was really good. The action and the story were really good too. And even though it was kind of like with like the Nuke thing, Captain America, even though that was kind of like, I felt like it was kind of shoot in or it was kind of unnecessary, it was still kind of cool just to kind of see like how they handled a character like that and just seeing Captain America show up.
Yeah, I really liked it. Like we were saying in the beginning, like we're probably like 50 episodes in almost at this point. And we haven't seen we haven't had tons of episodes where it's not like super, like really superhero based, like kind of otherworldly things happening. So it's good to finally get some stories like this. I feel like the late 80s, 90s stuff is kind of like that. It's a lot, like you're gonna get like a lot of darker stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of death and stuff happening and a lot more adult themes.
You remember how there was like the comic book authority, whatever? Was that still in place around the 80s? Around this time?
I believe so, but it wasn't. It was. When did it end? It only ended in 2011. The Wikipedia says by the 80s there was a greater depiction of violence, and that had been become more acceptable. Says, for example, Moon Knight encountered zombies, and in 1989 there was a code revision provided that had provided more permissiveness, but also authorized members to publish unapproved titles labeled as mature fare. But the Comics Code Authority was always just kind of like a suggestion kind of thing. Like they didn't have any actual authority to stop companies from releasing anything. There were some stores across the country that wouldn't take books unless they had that or under the comic code. But yeah, it seems like in the 80s they got a little bit more lenient with things. There's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of killing. Yeah, it seems weird that they were they pointed out zombies as a thing, as them being more lenient on things.
Yeah, they're zombie now.
You guys can do zombies. that should be okay for kids.
Yeah, but overall, a very good story. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend you guys read it because, like I said, if you're not somebody who is into comic books or if you're not too familiar with them, I mean, I wouldn't say if you're not familiar with it, I wouldn't say just jump in the middle of a series of books.
No.
But definitely, like it's something that if you know the character and if you just want to kind of read something, I think you can kind of read it without knowing exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's kind of like the whole point of the podcast, right? Like we're just taking these events that happen in different points of these stories and reading them for you guys. Mm-hmm. But Marco said, like, I wouldn't, if you don't know anything about comics, I wouldn't just
start at 232.
Yeah, don't start in the 200s and just read this and then just go back and try to find some other stuff.
This book sucks. I don't know what's happening.
but then I also get like this was 232 issues into the run. Yeah. So I don't expect you guys to read the 231 before just to get to this, but
I mean, you can technically do it. Yeah, like what you said, like you can do what we do. Is I mean, there's of course runs that are more recent that you can jump into and kind of. I mean, these characters don't really go anywhere, so you can still kind of get the gist of like who they are and what they're doing now, and then you can go back to these if you ever wanted to. I know now they have a Daredevil run. I think I just seen it on the app with Elektra as Daredevil. Yeah. So that's on there. And I mean, I feel like over the past maybe 10 years, there's been like 3 different like Daredevil runs that you can read if you wanted to.
I think so.
Like you said, if you guys definitely want to read or jump into books, just do it. There's never a bad place to start.
Not really. Like that's what I learned, like doing all this stuff. Because before when I was like reading comics on my own, I would like where's the best place to start with like Spider-Man or like Venom, Captain America, whatever. It's really just pick a run and start. Yeah. It might not be great, or it might be the best thing you've ever read.
Getting a phone call. We're getting a phone call. Yeah, I think the first comic books I read and like bought the whole series for were X-Men versus Avengers. Like that was years of build up towards that. Yeah. And I didn't read any of it beforehand. I just jumped into that main story. So it's like you'll get the gist. It keeps comic books aren't gatekeeping anybody from reading them. Like yeah, you might jump in during like an event, but there's always going to be something that's going to be like, hey, you don't need to know this. It may help, but you can always. And with the internet now, it's so easy to kind of read what you didn't read in the books before and just know where you are now.
Yeah, and there's like we've seen in some of the stories we've read and like newer stories, they always, most of the time, if they reference something from before, they have that little thing in the corner of the panel that says from so-and-so or from this book or this book. And then if you have the app, the Marvel Unlimited app, there's a good chance that issue's back there if you want to go back and read it. But like I'm reading one for an episode that we have coming up further down the road, Inferno. And that's, if I read the whole thing, that's a 39-part story. And from what I've read before I started, this story is like literally 8 years in the making that leads to this. And did I read all that shit? No, I didn't. But yeah, like with the internet, it's out there. So it's like you can find what happened before this. And there's a lot of good sites and people on the internet that know all this stuff that can explain it or have written stuff about it. YouTube, all that stuff.
Yeah. Use your resources, people. That's what they're there for.
This podcast has definitely helped me learn more about Marvel comics and different characters and their stories throughout it. But like I still don't know everything.
Yeah, and there's no way you're going to know everything.
It would take me years to hammer down everything. and be like a full encyclopedia of it all.
And to be honest with you, it'd be such a waste of time.
Yeah. So much stuff changes.
Yeah. So much stuff changes, and it's just like, it's not fun when you're just like trying to learn everything about the character. It's like, read what you read, like it or don't, but at least you read it. Yeah. But like, don't feel like you have to read everything that happened in Spider-Man's comic book issues that have ever happened, or the X-Men or anything.
Yeah, if you're like me, then sometimes stuff like that comes. Like, I cannot tell you or anybody else what possessed me to start watching every animated Marvel show there is. I don't know what's making me do this, and I don't know what's making me continue to do this. But I'm doing it. I'm like 24 shows in now, and every day I start a new episode, I question myself. Because I don't know why I'm doing it. But it's been enjoyable because we've been doing this podcast. So like, I've learned stuff about certain characters. I've seen these stories, and then you see bits and pieces of the stories pop up in the shows, or they just might animate the whole story, and then you get different episodes out of it. And I've learned stuff from the shows that I didn't know. Like, I just found out the other day that Mystique is Nightcrawler's mom, and on top of all that, she has a son with Sabretooth. Mm-hmm. And she was like an adoptive mom to Rogue. I had no clue any of that. I saw it. I'm watching X-Men Evolution right now, and that's part of one of the episodes. And I was scared to look into it because I didn't know if this was like solely a show kind of thing that they just wrote for the show, and I didn't want it to ruin the show. But I was like, I can't just scoot past this. I have to figure it out. And then I just went down this rabbit hole of stuff. But usually, I would hope that that's kind of what happens with the show. You hear something, you want to read the story, and then you're reading the story or not. You just listened, and then it sent you down like this little rabbit hole of finding other stuff. Yeah. I'm giving it, I don't remember which one it is again.
I think it's the top one. I want to say it's the top. Oh, okay.
Okay. I lowered it just in case it was the wrong one. Yeah, I'm giving it one of these.
Like Matt Murdock's apartment.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. Hey, Matt, you like that job at the diner? Guess what?
Dude, I've lived 27 lives with no explosions ever happening in my life, right? This man has gone maybe 2 months, and 2 buildings that he's been in
that he was
exploded.
In. 2. And then one of them left your girl with a blanket of rocks on top of her.
Each one he's dug his suit out from each one.
There's nothing more important in that man's life than the suit.
Oh no, so 3 buildings. So his apartment building, the diner was crushed, and then he went to his apartment or wherever he was staying with Karen, and that's where the rocks fell on her.
Oh yeah.
So technically 3 buildings in like 2 months.
I always try to think, if superheroes were real, would it really be a benefit to any of us? And sometimes I don't think it is. Because there's so many, like, imagine your insurance on everything that you own.
No, yeah.
Everybody would move to, like, the Midwest. Or, like, North Dakota, South Dakota.
I forgot what the line is exactly from Civil War, but Vision was like, something about, like, their presence entices them, like, the villains. Mm-hmm. Like, you being a superhero is not helping me. You're just bringing these people out.
Because being a superhero implies that there has to be super villains. Yeah. But I think even if nobody was good with their powers, then you're just going to have a whole bunch of super villains. Yeah. So the superheroes have to be there. Also, them being there causes the people who just had, like, some powers and didn't do anything with it to be like, why is he getting all the credit? Like, I'm better than him.
It's just like a paradox of villain stories. Yeah. Villain origin stories.
Yeah, and it just is never ending. Like, I would never want to cross a bridge
Mm-mm.
living with superheroes. I would never want to go in any building that's higher than 2 stories. Because it's like, who knows what's going to happen? I wouldn't buy a car.
Yeah, I'm not owning a car.
No.
I got a bike.
My safest place is guaranteed, like, the middle of nowhere. And even then, the Hulk might show up, wreck my house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. That's all I got for this one.
Yeah, I'm giving it an explosion. I don't know if you hit it already, but it's getting the explosion. It was a good read for me.
But yeah, that was another episode down the drain for us. Thanks for coming and listening again this week. Thanks for sharing it, telling your friends about it. If you haven't, do that, please.
Yeah.
Give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And follow us on Instagram at the Webheads Podcast.
Yes. And follow our individual, well, I don't know about you, but you can follow me.
I'm there. Steven, ST.EVEN.
And mine is DeMarco_Lamont.
Catch us on IG, and we will talk to you guys later.
Yes.
Peace.
Bye.